They blocked his driveway, mocked his protests, and turned his peaceful life into a daily battle of frustration and humiliation. Mark, the arrogant new neighbor, acted as if the street was his personal kingdom. He parked his oversized truck wherever he pleased, ignored James's polite requests, and carried himself with the smug confidence of someone who thought he could get away with anything. But what Mark didn't know was that James Hunter, a steadfast veteran with a deep sense of justice, wasn't the kind of man to back down. Armed with determination and a neighborhood slowly uniting behind him, James set out to reclaim not just his driveway, but the peace and respect his community deserved. James Hunter was the kind of man people admired, an upstanding veteran, a loving husband, a father who had worked tirelessly to provide for his family. His corner lot home with its neat picket fence and perfectly trimmed lawn had been the pride of the neighborhood for years. For James, this small suburban street had always been a sanctuary, a place where children rode bikes, neighbors waved hello, and peace reigned supreme. But all of that changed the day Mark Taylor arrived. It started innocently enough. One sunny Saturday morning, James noticed a large black pickup truck parked awkwardly across his driveway. The vehicle was massive, like something out of a car commercial, and it completely blocked his way out. He sighed, thinking it must belong to one of the movers helping the new neighbor across the street. Stepping outside, James waved and introduced himself to the man unloading boxes. "Hi, I'm James from across the street. Welcome to the neighborhood," he said warmly. The man barely looked up. "Yeah, thanks," he muttered. No handshake, no smile, just a dismissive tone. James glanced at the truck. "I hate to be that guy, but your truck's blocking my driveway. Could you move it a bit?" Mark shrugged. "I'll get to it later. I'm busy right now." And with that, he turned his back and kept unloading. James stood there stunned. Maybe he's just having a rough day, James thought, giving him the benefit of the doubt. But that shrug, that dismissive, contemptuous shrug, stuck with him. Later that evening, when the truck was still there, James knocked on Mark's door. No answer. By the time Mark finally moved it the next morning, James was already late for an early church meeting. Annoying, yes, but James told himself it wasn't the end of the world, except it didn't stop. Every few days the truck reappeared, always in the same spot, blocking James's driveway completely. James tried being polite. He left notes on the windshield. He tried catching Mark in person. But each time, Mark either ignored him or gave the same dismissive wave. "Relax, it's not a big deal," he would say, as if James's time, property, and peace of mind didn't matter. And it wasn't just the truck. Mark treated the entire street like his own personal territory. Loud music blared late into the night. Empty beer cans appeared mysteriously on James's lawn. But it was the driveway issue that drove James to the brink. One particularly frustrating morning, as James struggled to maneuver his car around Mark's truck, he scraped his bumper against a street lamp. Staring at the damage, James felt anger bubbling to the surface. This wasn't just about inconvenience anymore. It was about respect, about boundaries. And Mark had crossed them one too many times. The next morning, James sat at his kitchen table, staring out the window at the truck sitting smugly in front of his driveway. He sighed heavily, wrote a neat, polite note, and placed it under the windshield wiper. For a brief moment, he felt hopeful. Surely, a direct yet kind approach would work. But when he checked later, his heart sank. The truck was still there, unmoved. His note was crumpled, and scrawled across it in bold black letters were the words, "My street, James." James clenched his fists. His wife, Sarah, watching from the doorway, said softly, "Maybe you should call the police." James hesitated. He wasn't the kind of man to involve authorities over small disputes. But this was no longer small. The next day, he called the local police. Officers arrived promptly, their flashing lights drawing curious neighbors. Mark stepped out of his house with his arms crossed and a smug grin. "He's always complaining," Mark said dismissively to the officers, jerking a thumb at James. "It's not like I'm breaking any laws." To James's dismay, the officers agreed that the parking regulations were ambiguous. "Technically, he's not violating any ordinances," one explained apologetically. They gave Mark a verbal warning, but nothing more. Mark's smirk widened as the police left. "Nice try, old man," he sneered. "Guess you're not as important as you think that evening." James sat in silence as Mark's loud music pulsed through the walls. The frustration and helplessness were unbearable. But James wasn't.